Okay, so that was a gray matter. Yes, that is H shape. This will be white matter. Okay. So we have said that in humans, a nervous system has a tubular type. That's why later we'll study that in each part of the brain there are special cavities which are named ventricles, yes? And here in spinal cord, in the very center, there is central canal. Central canal in adult humans is not present at all the levels, so it forms somewhere it is at those levels where it is present, it is filled in with cerebrospinal fluid. Somewhere it overgrows, so it's not present, but still it reminds us the type of nervous system in humans is tubular type. And around the central canal, we can see gray matter, yes? And we said that it is gray because it is mainly formed by neuron bodies. And in all the segments, two pairs of horns are present. So this here we can see anterior horn, that is broader and shorter, and this is posterior horn, that is longer and narrower. When we see it in the transverse section, these are horns, but when we look at the whole spinal cord, we call them colons because they look like colons. Yes, anterior colon and posterior colon. Outside of the gray matter, there is white matter. That is formed by processes. White matter. Formed by processes. Why white? We have already got it, yes? Because axons of somatic fibers, all of them, they are surrounded by Schwann cells, yes? Schwann cells, which are light in color, Schwann cells, and all the Schwann cells of one fiber, they form myelin sheath. Myelin sheath. Those fibers which are covered by myelin sheath, they are named myelinated fibers. Yes, so mainly majority of fibers is myelinated. That's why it's white matter. Between Schwann cells, there are gaps. Yes, which are named knots of Ranvier. Knots of Ranvier. When impulse moves along the axon, it moves from one node on Ranvier to another, like jumps. Along the Schwann cells, it passes very fast and it makes pause in the node of Ranvier. Such type of conduction of nerve impulse is known as saltatory conduction. And it is much faster than without Schwann cells. Okay, so it is one of the main functions of Schwann cells. So when we look from outside at the spinal cord, we have already said it, we see 5 sulci and 1 fissure, yes? In the middle of the anterior surface there is anterior median fissure. And laterally from it to the right and to the left, there is anterolateral sulcus. Place of exit of ventral roots from the spinal cord. Posteriorly, in the middle, there is posterior median sulcus. And to the right and to the left from it, there is posterolateral sulcus. Place of exit of dorsal roots from the spinal cord. And by this sulci and fissure, white matter in the spinal cord is divided into 3 pairs of funiculi. Yes? So between anterior median fissure and anterolateral sulcus, there is anterior funiculus, between anterolateral and posterolateral, there is lateral funiculus, and between posterior median sulcus and posterolateral sulcus, there is posterior funiculus. Posterior funiculus. In white matter, that is presented by processes. All of these processes, they are very well arranged, yes? So those processes which start from one place, the same place, and go to the same place, they join together and they form conducting tract. And for your homework, you will need to learn which exactly conducting tract is located in each part of the white matter of spinal cord. Inside the horns, in the gray matter, neuron bodies are also arranged, like in worms, yes? Neurons which perform the same function, they join together to avoid a loss of function in case of injury or death of one of them. So they form here nuclei. You have to know definition of nucleus also for the next lesson. So nucleus, if we talk about nervous system, it is a group of neuron bodies that is located inside CNS and performs the same function. Nucleus is also cell organelle, yes, which contains genetic material of this cell. But here in nervous system, a nucleus has another one more definition. And now we are coming up to reflex. So I told you that in human nervous system, there is not such a perfect neuron that can perform all of its functions. So in human nervous system, neurons are specified. Each of them, they perform specific function. So functional classification of the neurons includes 3 types. And all of them participate in formation of reflex arch. First of all, you also have to know what is a reflex. What is it, reflex? Please, Ayush, tell us.
Sudden reaction to an external action.
Again.
Sudden reaction to an instant action outside the body.
No, not only outside, inside also,
Inside
yes?
also.
Yes, it is a reaction of the body to any irritation from external or internal environment that goes through the CNS. Yes? Okay, take your seat. Yes. And to perform this reflex, our neurons, they unite to form reflex chains or reflex arches. So each reflex arch, the simplest reflex arch, let's say so, contains at least 2 neurons. And first neuron is that which will perceive an irritation. It is named sensory or efferent neuron. Sensory or efferent neuron. When you open the books, you will see that anything that related to sensation will be drawn in blue color. And definitely now you understand, yes, that if a neuron is sensory, it should start with receptor. In the diagram of reflex arch, no, in any diagram of conducting tracts also, in both anatomy and physiology, we will use such a symbol to draw receptor, like brush. Yes, brush. So receptor, let it be thermoreceptor. It perceives an irritation of a high temperature and then transforms this irritation into electric impulse. And why is it being drive? Why it's being drive? It moves first to the cell body of this sensory neuron. So sensory neurons, bodies of sensory neurons are always located outside of CNS. Bodies of sensory neurons are always located outside of CNS. Here we can say that they are located in the dorsal roots of spinal nerve, and it's not alone here, yes, it's also arranged into a group. And here they form ganglia. So if neuron bodies form a group that is located inside the CNS and performs the same function, it is nucleus. If group of neuron bodies is located outside of CNS, it is ganglion. Ganglion is a singular, plural, these are ganglia. So along the dendrite, impulse moves to the sensory ganglion, to body of sensory neuron. And then along the axon of this neuron, enters through posterolateral sulcus of the segment of spinal cord and enters posterior horn, and here it forms synapse with the body of second order neuron that is located in the posterior horn. Second type of neurons is intermediate neuron. Intermediate or associative neuron or conductive neuron also. So here, in the body of conductive neuron, analysis of the data takes place and responsive stimulus is generated. And this responsive stimulus, along its axon of intermediate neuron, moves anteriorly to the anterior horn of the spinal cord and gets transmitted via the synapse to the body of third order neuron, that is motor neuron. So the third functional type of neuron, it is motor or efferent neuron. And then axons of third order neuron leave through enterolateral sulcus and reach target cell. Yes? Reach target cell. So this is, now we have drawn the thing which you will draw in the next lesson. This is 3 neuronal reflex arch. Yes? So impulse reached target cell, muscle, and muscle was contracted, and we removed our hand from hot candle. Yes? The simplest reflex arches consist of 2 neurons only. In this case, we skip intermediate neuron, and axon of sensory neuron continues up to the anterior horn, from synapse here. In this case, in the analysis of the data takes place in the body of motor neuron, and this response goes along the axons to the target cell. These 2 neuronal reflex arch, they are present only in tendon reflexes. What is a tendon reflex? It's when you go to the neurologist. The neurologist take a hammer, beats you on the patella tendon. Yes, patella tendon. And what happens?
Knee jerk reflex.
What is it?
There will be movement of backward movement of leg.
No, it will be forward movement.
Forward movement.
Yes, it will be first extension of the leg will be, because to which muscle does patella tendon belong?
Quadriceps femoris.
Yes, quadriceps femoris. And action of quadriceps femoris muscle is an extension of the leg, yes? So such type of reflexes, they can be based on 2 neuronal reflex arch. So at the next lesson, some of you will draw 2 neuronal reflex arch, the other will draw 3 neuronal reflex arch. I told you that in all the segments there are anterior and posterior horns, but in the segments from C8 to A2 there are additional horns which are named lateral horns. Можно, пожалуйста, секундочку? Ну, пока у меня занятие. Lateral horns. horn. They are present only at the level from C8 to L2. And they are autonomic horns. Here there are autonomic, bodies of autonomic neurons. What I forgot to tell you is that, yes, these neurons, bodies of motor neurons, they are many here, yes, I told you that. And here in the anterior horns, they form motor nuclei. Bodies of intermediate neurons, which are present in the posterior horn. They are also many here. They join together and they form sensory nuclei. So please, I'm asking you to memorize it. Because bodies of sensory neurons are always located outside of CNS and form sensory ganglia, sensory nuclei are formed by bodies of intermediate neurons. Please memorize it. Okay. And what else? And here there are autonomic nuclei and axons which arise from neurons which form autonomic nuclei. They also live through enterolateral sulcus. And now which conclusion can be made out of all of these things? That through the posterolateral sulcus only sensory fibers pass, yes? So impulse always move in direction towards the CNS. Through the enterolateral sulcus, motor and autonomic fibers pass, and impulse always moves from the CNS. Now, looking at the preparation and looking at this diagram, we can understand that these actually fibers.
Здравствуйте, пожалуйста. А можно спросить ключи хирургического пути? Нам Сергей Владимирович сказал вас спросить.
Ну, у меня нету, возьмите на вахте, если вам дадут.
На вахте? Хорошо,
Да,
спасибо большое. Извините.
Okay, now which conclusion can be made? That these sensory fibers, which go out through the posterolateral sulcus, they form dorsal root of spinal nerve, yes? These fibers, motor and autonomic, they form ventral root of spinal nerve. And then all together, at the level of intervertebral foramen, they join and they form trunk of spinal nerve. Trunk of spinal nerve. This is ventral root. And this is dorsal root. Roots of the nerves, if you see, they are unidirectional, yes? Along the dorsal root, impulse moves towards the CNS. Along the ventral root, impulse moves from the CNS. In the trunk of spinal nerve, impulses move in both directions, back and forth. But trunks of spinal nerves, they are very short and very fast, very soon after exit of the spinal nerve from the intervertebral foramen, it is divided into its terminal branches. Terminal branches of spinal nerves, they are anterior branch that supplies anterior part of the body and limbs. Then there is posterior branch that supplies posterior part of the body, and because anterior branch supplies not only anterior part of the body but also limbs, anterior branches are always better developed than posterior branches. And you can see that branches, they are mixed, yes, they contain both sensory and motor fibers. There is also meningeal branch that goes backward to the spinal cord and supplies meninges. And these segments, spinal nerves, from C8 to L2, they also have these autonomic fibers, which form first a wide communicating branch, because this part is myelinated. This wide communicating branch comes up to autonomic ganglion, and from autonomic ganglion gray communicating branches start with joint anterior and posterior branches. Gray communicating branch. Gray communicating branch which join anterior and posterior branches. So now we can make a conclusion that all the branches, anterior and posterior, they contain sensory, motor and autonomic fibers. Segments which are located above C8 or below A2, they don't have white communicating branches, but still gray communicating branches come up to these anterior and posterior branches from above or from below, because every part of our body needs autonomic supply. So this was formation and branches of spinal nerve. So roots are before the trunk and they are unidirectional, yes, dorsal and ventral. Branches, they are after the trunk and they are mixed, they are bidirectional. This you will not draw in the next lesson. This we will draw when we reach peripheral nervous system. What you will draw for the next lesson, these are reflex arches, I told you. 3 neuronal and 2 neuronal reflex arches. Any questions?